Good morning. Warm welcome to Dr. B.V. Raman webinar series. So today we have with us in the studio Dr. Revathi Vee Kumar. He is the National Secretary of ICAS. We also have with us Sri Suresh Babu. He is the chapter chairman of Sikandrabad, the 3 chapter. Today, both these speakers will present their papers. We have Srimati Sri Lakshmi with us today to start the session with her prayer. So I request Srimati Sri Lakshmi to conduct the prayer, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. ವಂದಿಸುವೆನು ಶ್ರೀ ಗಣರಾಯ ವಂದಿಸುವೆನು ಶ್ರೀ ಗಣರಾಯ ಸುರಮುನಿ ವಂದಿತ ಸಂತತ ಚರಿತ ಸುರಮುನಿ ವಂದಿತ ಸಂತತ ಚರಿತ ವರ ಪಾರ್ವತಿ ಸುತ पंकज सूर्या वर पार्वती सुत पंकज सूर्या ವಂದಿಸುವೆನು ಶ್ರೀ ಗಣರಾಯ ಮಹಾದುರಿತ ಹಾರಿ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ಶರೀರ ಮಹಾದುರಿತ ಹಾರಿ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ಶರೀರ ವರಗಂಗೆಯ ವಕ್ಷ ಪ್ರವೇಶ ವರಗಂಗೆಯ ವಕ್ಷ ಪ್ರವೇಶ ವರಗಂಗೆಯ ವಕ್ಷ ಪ್ರವೇಶ ವಂದಿಸುವೆನು ಶ್ರೀ ಗಣರಾಯ ತಂದೆ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ಮಧ್ವೇಶ ವಿಠಲ ತಂದೆ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ಮಧ್ವೇಶ ವಿಠಲ ಆನಂದ ಕವೀಶ್ವರ ಗಾವ ಮುನಿವಾಸ ಆನಂದ ಕವೀಶ್ವರ ಗಾವ ಮುನಿವಾಸ ಆನಂದ ಕವೀಶ್ವರ ಗಾವ ಮುನಿವಾಸ ವಂದಿಸುವೆನು ಶ್ರೀ ಗಣರಾಯ ವಂದಿಸುವೆನು ಶ್ರೀ ವಂದಿಸುವೆನು ಶ್ರೀ ವಂದಿಸುವೆನು ಶ್ರೀ ಗಣರಾಯ. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. You have really created a very positive vibration in the studio. Very positive vibration in the studio. Thank you very much. So thank you, madam. Now I take this opportunity to introduce the speakers of the day. First, I'll start with Dr. Revathi Vee Kumar. He is Jyotish Vachaspati and Jyotish Kalamani both. Dr. Revathi Vee Kumar is the Honorary National Secretary of ICAS. Before he shouldering the responsibility of National Secretary, he served as a chapter chairman of Bangalore 1 chapter. So professionally, he was holding executive position in BSNL. So he is a great author, astrologer and researcher as well. He has a proficiency in almost all branches of astrology. He has mastery in astrology, Vastu, Hastareka as well. He contributes regularly to leading astrological magazines in India. He authored several books. So, to quote Vastu Medical Astrology, and there is a one book, pairing of opposite houses in prediction, which is a topic of the day, which he is going to speak today. Considering his significant contribution in the field of astrology, ICAS has conferred him with the title Jyotish Vachaspati and Jyotish Kalamani. So, Dr. Revathi Kumar, you're welcome, sir. Welcome to today's session. Warm welcome to you. I request Dr. Revathi Vee Kumar to speak on the topic pairing of opposite houses in prediction.
Good morning to all. My pranams to. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Please go ahead.
So, presentation, is it visible, sir?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vishwanath, for giving so good words about me. I once again pranams to all seniors, honorary National President Guruvar A.B. Shuklaji. I hope he is present. And all senior national vice presidents, office bearers of ICAS, chapter chairman, all other office bearers of ICAS, students, aspirants of astrology, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, my pranams to all of you. In fact, this topic has been presented already in the public in the form of a book, but because the concept is so important, I thought let me just present a session on this, at least an hour or so that the ICAS fraternity gets benefited by this if somebody who has not been exposed to this already. Because the book is already there in the market, I hope some of my friends in ICAS are already knowing this. In fact, I have shared some copies with my friends. So it is for the benefit of a larger audience who are present here. I would like to cover the topic of pairing of opposite houses in 5-6 subtopics. A basic introduction, then the general method of Bhava analysis, a small review, rather recap, and to say where this analysis of houses as pairs of opposite houses comes into picture. Then the validity of this method, how this method is valid. So we have two significant reasons: the interlink among the significations of houses, the nature of opposite houses in the horoscope. These two, based on these two, it is validated. And understanding the 6 pairs of opposite houses, the 12 houses are grouped into 6 pairs. So how to understand the pairs is one area, and then some general clues to understand and evaluate the opposite houses together. Maybe in the end we can have a few example charts. So far as the initial discussion is concerned, this is actually the technique of analyzing the influence of 12 houses by pairing them into 6 sets of opposite pairs in evaluating Bhavapala. Normally we go with a different method. In addition to that, whatever basic method we are following, we evaluate as pairs of houses and then come to some additional conclusions, which the details we'll be seeing further in this session. This method is very simple, but very subtle simultaneously, and it is very useful in prediction because it provides better insights into various portfolios of life pertaining to a native. Also, that also will be demonstrated further in this presentation. Originally, the concept was conceived long back, and a series of articles, around 10 parts, were published in Modern Astrology, a monthly magazine run by Madam Gayatri Devi was there. from January 2014 to December 2016, and subsequently it was released in a book form in 2017, published by Sagar Publications. Cover that book cover only I have displayed here for information of all. So far as the topic is concerned, the first important thing we have to recap is the technique which all of us are knowing. It is nothing new in this particular slide, but this slide is only to impress upon the fact that at what point we are to introduce this concept of pairing. That is only the reason this slide is given. So normally we go with some 7 steps finally before prediction. Maybe we can add so many steps. In fact, I have written a book called Synthesis Method of Prediction, which is under print in Sagar, likely to get released in another 2 months, where an exhaustive discussion has been made about the basic method of prediction as per Parashara. And I have identified around 15 or 16 steps in doing this. Anyway, we will not go into those details, but so far as the normal general method of Bhava analysis is concerned, we always use the influence of, try to analyze the influence of Bhava proper at the first level, then the influence of the Bhava Lord, and then the influence of Bhava Karaka. All these three are done in respect of houses. We have certain combinations of houses, as we already know. For marriage, we have 2, 5, 11. We had for education, we use 4th house, 2nd house, and other connected houses. For children, we have 2, 5, 11. Marriage 2, 7, 11. Profession 2, 6, 11. And that way we have 2, 6, 10, 11. In fact, for profession, we have such combinations of houses. For each of these houses, we try to identify these trinal inputs, Bhava, Bhava Lord, and Bhava Karaka, so that we are in a position to identify the basic nature of result that is possible. Once we know the basic idea, have some basic idea with the influence of these, by synthesizing the influence of Bhava, Bhavadipati, Bhava Karaka, we try to identify certain overriding influences like yogas, doshas, badhas, shapas, so many other overriding influences which could again supersede the influence of these Bhava, Bhavadipati, Bhava Lord, depending on other considerations. In addition to that, we also use the Ashtakavarga, Shadbala, divisional charts, etc. They also give us some clues on prediction, especially Ashtakavarga, divisional charts. We counter check the results, and Shadbala gives essentially the quantum of results. What is the gravity of the situation, etc. And many times Ashtakavarga also comes in handy to give us some clue on the quantum of results. Once we are through with this stage, we try to talk about the timing of the event using Dasha and transit. This is what we basically normally do in Bhava analysis at the fundamental level. But then, where this concept of analyzing the 12 houses as 6 pairs of opposite houses comes into picture. Actually, this activity is an additional activity envisaged under step 5, apart from additional assessments like Ashtavaga, Shadbala, and divisional charts. When we analyze each house connected to an area of life, the influences prevailing from its 7th house also necessarily to be included, and final conclusion should be drawn by taking into account the additional inputs obtained from such an interlink. I have just said wherever it is existing, because there could be some occasions where both the houses connected to opposite houses. So for example, Lagna and 7th house, both the houses may be empty. So at that time, we may not be able to use this concept of pairing. So if there is one house is having a planet, naturally the pairing comes into picture, the influence comes into picture, because they operate mutually. How they operate, we will see in future. So for example, I have already said for 7th house, we have to use the influence of ascendant also, the influence from the ascendant also. On the same lines, we try to pair house number 2 with house number 8, house number 3 with house number 9, house number 4 with house number 10, 5 with 11, and 6 with 12. This is the basic concept. It's a very simple one, as we can see. But how to use it, why at all it is valid, that we will see further in the presentation. So the 2 reasons why this particular concept is valid are the concept of interlink among the houses. If I talk about the interlink, actually, we can see that the entire horoscope, all the 12 houses in the horoscope, they are basically evolutionary in nature. The Karakatwas, they follow the sequence of life as it unfolds from birth to death. So here we have to note that right from the birth, the moment we say birth, it has the significance of a head coming into picture. That is the first house of the horoscope. That is the identification. See, for the whole body, head happens to be the identification. In fact, a headless body is not identified properly. And then comes the second house, what we call as the Dhanasthana or Vaksthana, etc. And this Dhana or Vak is again the second basic influence the child is expected to undergo. So the family in which the child is born, the speech the child is first expected to deliver. Of course, the smile, looks, all that comes first. But the most significant thing immediately after the child slightly grows is we expect the child to speak first. So second house comes into picture. Then the child starts playing with co-bonds in the next level in the third house, and in the fourth level it seeks more comforts as it keeps growing. This way, the comfort of mother's lap is most comfortable. That is what it is always recognized. And fourth house also rules Graha Vahana Saukya, all that happiness, everything. So this way, the Karakatwas of the houses evolve in a fixed pattern from birth to death up to 12 houses. So I've only given a few houses because paucity of time. So we will try to understand in a similar fashion. We can always establish that the evolution, the significations are 100% evolutionary in nature. Apart from this, because they are evolving from the fixed focal point of Lagna, there are always interconnections among the houses, and all houses are interconnected with each other in more than one way, different ways. And we have classified the houses as Kendras, Upachayas, Dustanas, Trikonas, Marakas, etc., etc., Apoklima, etc., based on such interconnection links, interconnected links only in the horoscope. For example, each group of classification actually signifies a common pattern of results. For example, Kendras, we have already said that they are supposed to be the Vishnu Sthanas, the focal activity centers, key activities of life, Lagna, 4th, 7th, and 10th house. They get connected to the Kendras. And Trikonas, we have classified them as Lakshmi Sthanas, calling, important for wealth and comfort. Upachayas, we have told they are growth related houses. And Dustanas, they try to create problems and miseries and so on. So this way, the groupings also take into consideration the interlink among the houses in the horoscope. Each of them signify a common pattern of results. And the most important thing I would like to say is some houses appear to be more intimately connected between them, while they appear to be simultaneously less connected to other houses. If I say Kendras, they appear to be more interconnected with them, whereas again, Trikonas also that way, but they appear as if they are not connected to other houses that significantly. But in pairing of opposite houses, we capture this missing link where the opposite house to a Kendra or to a Trikona or to a Nipachesthana or to a Dusthana, etc., etc., is also seen as a source of influence, and this is actually working in each and every horoscope. So the pairing of opposite houses is validated because of that interlink, the influence created from the planets in seventh house to a given house. Even though there is a basic interlink, that influence is again modified, supplemented by the influence from the opposite houses. And the second important point is the Karakatva of each house may not operate simultaneously. They may operate at different time periods in life. There are, of course, other areas. Karakattvas may operate at multiple times. At some Karakattvas operate throughout life also. It is not that all Karakattvas do not operate at the same time always. So some, for example, status and honor, they are connected to two houses, Lagna, 10th house. Whereas wealth is connected to multiple houses of the horoscope, second house, fourth house, fifth house, eighth house, 11th house, and so on. We have multiple connections. So they may be operating in almost all the range, stages of life. And to understand the concept of Karakattvas operating at multiple stages, we may divide the lifespan into three stages. First stage, the initial part of life, ruled by Lagna to fourth house. The areas connected to this are more predominantly influencing in the first part of life, first stage. And second stage of life is governed by fifth to eighth houses. Although I don't say that first to fourth are not relevant to that time, but fifth to eighth are more important in second stage. Similarly, in third stage, ninth to 12th houses, they come into picture. So we have to interpret the operating significations of the houses accordingly, depending upon the age factor, also in taking the age factor also into consideration. So when we try to judge, for example, the operation of houses, we try to use the combinations already said, profession 267, childbirth 259, and all. But how the opposite house comes into picture is given an example related to marital life. In second house, we have called it as Kutumba or addition to family. But the same second house also the addition is having a connection to the longevity of the individual, or in a female horoscope, the Mangalya Sthana. Whether that marital life will continue, for how long the life will continue, marital life will continue, the bond will continue, is again having a link to eighth house, which is an opposite house from second house. And the seventh house, if we say a spouse, ruling the spouse, the relationship between the spouse and the self, which is Lagna, that can be understood better if Lagna is also taken into the focus when we talk about seventh house. And similarly, if we say 11th house discusses the fulfillment or the Ishta Siddhi, we call it as satisfaction of a want, fulfillment of a want, satisfaction of a desire, and so on. We here have the influence of Pura Punya also. Whether the person is destined to get it, we always have whether he is eligible to get it is seen from his Pura Punya, which is ruled by fifth house. So that way, for second house, we have eighth house as complementary and supplementary. Seventh house, we have Lagna as complementary, supplementary and complementary. And for 11th house, we have fifth house as supplementary and complementary. So this is one valid reason why in Vedic astrology we use seventh house aspect from seventh house for all planets. There is a difference again in Western astrology. They do not consider this as a favorable aspect. They always say that this is a passive configuration. In fact, that word passive is used by Mr. CEO Carter, who happens to be one of the pioneers in Western astrology. He has written a book on astrology of aspects. In that astrology of aspects, he calls it as a passive configuration. And it only, I quote, it only tends to make the native an instrument in the hands of other, either conscious or unconscious. If the horoscope is of a generally passive type, this condition may be easily accepted. But in case of a vigorous individual, the influence of the opposition may lead to constant friction and struggle. In such maps, it denotes pliancy and opportunism. In fact, this is what he tries to say. And such part of this is also applicable to our understanding of pairing of opposite houses. And we have another gentleman in West who talks of the astrological aspects from seventh house. He sees it as, I quote, the opposition. This gentleman is Bill Tierney, a Western astrologer who has written a book called The Astrological Aspects. I quote from that book. I quote, the opposition still manifests much tension in its attempt to balance the polarized urges represented by the planets and signs involved. It is an aspect allowing for a fuller face-to-face awareness of the functions of both the planets. Depending upon the individual's ability to skillfully coordinate, the opposition can result in a satisfactory compromise in which the needs are mutually satisfied through complementary exchange. It is basically from Dynamics of Aspect Analysis, page number 39. So again, the seventh house influence, we have understood it very clearly. Even Westerners, although somebody says it is passive, it is treated as very influential even in the West. Now, there is another important point that validates the combination of houses into pairs. Now we can see the natural zodiac. In the zodiac, the opposite houses, they always belong to friendly tattvas, and they are of same polarity. If Mesha and Tula we take for example, Mesha is a fiery sign and Tula is an airy sign, and they belong to friendly tattvas. And the polarity, if you say both are male signs, positive signs, and positive signs are odd signs rather. We call it as odd sign or male sign, positive sign. So they belong to same gender that way also. Only thing is here, they are mutually ruled by mutually inimical planets, Mars and Venus. Almost all pairs are ruled by mutually inimical planets, but that is not deterring the concept. It adds to the fineness of prediction in spite of mutually inimical natures. And the nature of opposite signs again is same. If Lagna is seventh Chararashi, seventh house also happens to be a Chararashi. Similarly, any seventh house. So if the house concerned happens to be a Sthira Rashi, the opposite sign to it also happens to be a Sthira Rashi. Seventh from it is Sthira Rashi. Similarly for the Subha Rashis. So Chara is opposite to Chara, Sthira is opposite to Sthira, and Visubha is opposite to Visubhava. So just to try to put this only to explain. For example, Aries to Libra. So it is a fiery sign and this is an Aries sign, so they are friendly. Aries is odd, Libra is odd. Aries is movable and Libra is movable. It is the same case with almost all the 12 signs of zodiac. This is a fundamental thing which we already know. I don't think I need to dwell upon this further. So this particular similarity of the influences goes to say that the opposite houses are capable of mutually influencing each other. This is one thing which I would like to emphasize. Because of these similarities, they are more similar in nature than the discard. It is only the lordships which are planets which are ruling the opposite houses are only the inimical planets. Otherwise, all other natures are either similar or compatible. That is the concept here. So that way, the pairing becomes a valid concept in influencing or understanding, evaluating the horoscope. So now let us try to see the next stage. Understand the six pairs of opposite houses in a chart. What only minimal discussions because the time is again running, so I won't be able to cover all these things in detail. But anyway, one or two, at least Lagna and seventh house, I'll try to cover in detail maybe after completing this. So when we talk about these opposite six opposite pairs, Lagna and seventh house, it talks about the subtle link between the self versus partner. It can be wife or business partner and so on. It also has the link to the ego of the individual and his alter ego, the second self, which is seen as his partner or the spouse. So how that interlink goes, maybe I will be able to discuss it in the subsequent part of this lecture. And the second and eighth house together. So second house is, we know, Marakasthana. Eighth house is the house of longevity and the mode of death. We have called it as Nirjana. So it also has multiple karakattvas which are again detrimental to a native. All the many negative karakattvas. I only use the triple words to signify that adversity: trials, tribulations, and blockages. I generally use these three words. It all signifies a lot of disadvantages. No doubt, it also has some connection to unexpected wealth also if eighth house comes into picture. So for that matter, both second and eighth houses, if they are well connected, they go to support unexpected wealth also. Here, in understanding the death and longevity part of second and eighth house, we have the concept of food versus suffering. In fact, we know the food is one important component which is responsible for multiple comfort levels, either the health or the comfort level of a person. It is capable of increasing longevity, suppressing longevity, creating problems in health, or maintenance of good food habits is likely to help the person in not having too much of suffering in life. So that way, the second and eighth houses they work together, and in fact, the karakatwas of second and eighth houses are so intertwined well that almost each karakatva maps one to one. So I'm only trying to give a hint of this so that the further readings can be made later from the book. So the third pair of opposite houses is third house and ninth house. So this third house and ninth house is again, we one side we call it as third house as effort and ninth house as luck or bhagya. We have called this as bhagya. Again, we have multiple other concepts here, the religiousness, father, and so on. We have multiple concepts here. We can always try to map many of these karakatwas, how they get interconnected. If we try to analyze the karakatwas very seriously and we try to look for the interlinks, we will be able to connect it. And I have shown many areas in the book already. So first important thing I thought is to connect it from luck to effort. Whether a person's prarabdha or luck, prarabdha actually somebody says it is connected to sixth house. I take it as luck in ninth house as luck or bhagya. So what bhagya or luck a person is likely to enjoy in the present life has a direct relationship to the third house, that is his effort. When they go well, the third and ninth house, they are well connected. Naturally, the efforts of the person are oriented towards realizing good luck or good success in present life, because of bhagya that is ruled by ninth house. So if there is again mismatch, a disoriented approach, or the person may not be tuning his activities to get the luck what he desires, that providential impact certainly will be there. That again we have to see, everything has its own providential influence. And the fourth next pair of houses, fourth and 10th houses together, if we see them as these again, we know they are kendras again, so connected to sukha versus karma. So the comfort level and the jivanopaya, there is a connection. So the activity, the profession a person does and the sukha he enjoys, it can be again the educational level and the profession he attains. Any of these things, they can be interconnected at different levels to understand the two important facets of one's life, that is his profession and education, or the luck, the comfort level the person is enjoying. And in fact, both the Sukha and Karma, they happen to be the pivots of life along with 1 and 7. This, the importance of Kendras, maybe some other time we can talk. So basically 4 and 10, they happen to be two important pivots. They again have a relationship between the two. And the next pair is 5th and 11th houses, Purva Punya versus Ishta Siddhi. So the concept here, ultimately the clues to fulfillment, whether a person is able to get his desires fulfilled in present life, is he having the eligibility to get his desires fulfilled, can be seen through the influence of the interconnecting influence between 5th and 11th house. The support, whether he derives from 5th to 11th, or the support is from 11th to 5th, trying to give him some backup, all that we can try to see. The Purva Punya to Ishta Siddhi, that connection is from 5th to 11th. We have multiple levels again. I'm only talking about one level so that we are in a position to understand the concept slightly better. And then the last pair of houses, 6th and 12th house. We know 6th house rules Rina. We have called it as the house of Roga, Rina, Ripu, so on. And all these things, if we remember, they are acquired from 5th house. They are the acquisitions from past connected to 5th house. So Purva Punya, second to Purva Punya, we acquire from the Purva. The Rina is always having a connection to Rina Mochana, the redemption from the Rina. So 12th house, its opposite house talks of Rinamochana or getting oneself freed from the Rina. For example, if ninth lord is posited in 12th house, so if ninth lord gets posited in 12th house, it means that a native he is either two ways. It can be seen from sixth house if it is getting posited, ninth house it is getting posited. It has two interconnections. If in sixth house it is getting posited, ninth lord goes to sixth house, it means that the native's father suffers because of this man's adverse influence. Or if ninth lord goes to 12th house, it aspects sixth house, it indicates the Runa from father, and naturally, if the sixth lord is in ninth lord is in 12th house, it straight away gives a clue that this person is going to dispense his Runa to his father by spending money, taking care of him, and all that activities which the ninth and 12th actually initiate and create for him to, they create the opportunities in fact to get redeemed of the Rana of father to some extent. So that way we will be in a position to understand the pairs of houses, and we can always go with greater detail so far as the concept of pairing is concerned. We will try to see at least one or two. I have Lagna and 7,000, second and 8,000. If possible, second and 8,000 I'll do. Otherwise, Lagna and 7,000. At least we'll try to discuss in detail today. The next stage is to identify, have some general clues in evaluating the opposite houses. How to evaluate these mutual influences of opposite houses? So the mutual aspects of planets posited in Samasaptaka Bhavas, they create mutually supporting or agreeable results, or it can be detrimental influence also, depending upon the relationship between the concerned planets which are housed in the concerned houses. If the mutually friendly planets are involved, the results would certainly be favorable to the native. But if the inimical planets are involved, then it could certainly cause inauspicious results. So the simplest rule is they should be mutually friendly, or we have to see whether they are inimical. So here, again, I've already said, for this analysis of pairing of opposite houses, at least one of the two houses involved in that pair should necessarily have a planet. If both the houses are empty, it may not come into picture. That we have to remember. So, in case a single planet is posited in only one of the houses and the other house is empty, then also such an aspect yields very significant results. If it is empty, then we have some difficulty in evaluating. But at least one of the houses is having a planet, then naturally the influence of that planet connects to the seventh house from hit, and the results have to be decoded accordingly, connecting it to the seventh house. Now, the presence of multiple opposing influences, rather than one planet, if more than 2, 3 planets are available, then the area of life is likely to indicate many ups and downs or variations, not exactly a smooth flow of the Karakatwas. There could always be disturbances at a significant level. So this again in 1 bar 7, the horoscope I'll demonstrate. Absence of any opposition. It means that the native would not attempt to assess or try to evaluate the consequences before acting upon the situations encountered by him concerning those houses. So naturally, there is no, if two houses are not connected by this opposition concept, so the person may not put any serious effort in attempting to evaluate the consequences. He will be somewhat neutral or may not be significant. The karakatas or influences of those houses may not be significant mutually. That is the meaning of it. And generally, opposition enables one to see the other side of any issue. This is one important factor. So where the opposition is seen as an important concept. So if the individual is having if there are no planets in the opposite houses, then the person may not open up to others' views or viewpoints. He may be less inclined to confront people face to face, and he may like to prefer or may like to prefer to meet the problems indirectly rather than going head on with the problems. This is another thing we have to see. Opposition is again giving an ability to take the situation directly, face the situation directly, face to face. But if no such opposition is there, only one planet is influencing the other house, then naturally he goes into the control of the other house. He goes into the control of the house where the planet is posited, and there may not be face-to-face confrontation, and the person may still try to indirectly go with that results than directly going for a confrontation or interconnection. And we have in case the charge with opposing influences involving certain houses at a given moment of time, both the bhavas are at work simultaneously. In charts where the opposing influences are involved in certain houses, then the bhavas work simultaneously, and a result of combined effect. I have used the word synergic here. The two small influences getting combined and creating a larger effect, a more stronger effect on the horoscope, and that significant result will be felt like a synergic effect when both the houses are having planets. And if planetary conjunctions or multiple aspects are involved in either or one of the opposite houses, the results of such houses would generally be very important, and they need to be probed with extra caution. The impact of opposite houses essentially is about compromise, cooperation, and confrontation. Whether it is a compromise, whether it is a cooperation, or is it a confrontation, everything depends upon the planets connected to the houses under examination. And we have to be specifically going into the interconnection with the relevant planets coming into picture. So we cannot directly go with a generalized view that something is positive, something is negative, or something is neutral, and so on. Essentially, the basic concept of analysis comes into picture here. All rules of prediction, all rules of analysis, as per Parashara system at the basic level, they are applicable to this method of evaluation. There is no escape. This is only an additional tool. We are just trying to connect the opposite houses. Otherwise, the entire technique of analysis, interconnection, synthesis, it is all same as per Parashara system. So this is in fact the basic concept. I'd like to talk about the first pair of houses, Lagna and seventh house, in a slightly greater detail, so that we are in a position to appreciate the concept better. I don't think I'll have time to go with second and eighth houses. So at least one Lagna and seventh house I'll try to cover, and then with one or two example charts, so that we appreciate the concept. So if we talk about Lagna and seventh house, I've already said we are working with the ego and the alter ego, the one self and the alternate self. The ascendant and seventh house basically they deal with the core areas of human existence in the physical and material world. Because self and his spouse, one's own self and his or her spouse, they always work together as the bedrock of the unit of family. So the relationship becomes the essential foundation for the comfortable living. So there the key area is the bedrock of family. At material level, these two houses signify the basic identity of a working relationship that is meant for achieving success in the physical plane. That is one important thing. See, the relationship has to necessarily forge ahead, continue to live properly, ritualistically, religiously, ethically, etc., etc., and then continue the family tree. So this is the identity of working relationship meant for further success in physical plane to continue the family tree. But at the same time, the goals and aspirations of one is either supported or thwarted by the other, depending upon the influences prevailing upon both these houses in the horoscope. This was we are saying. Only if these houses are influenced by benefics in both the charts, mutually beneficial and favorable relationships would exist. This we have already discussed. I have said how the two get into connection. If both are favorable, then only it works as a favorable link. Otherwise, there could be problems. At subtler spiritual level, the ascendant signifies the creation of an egoistic self in the material world for the fructification of its karmic influences. The individual, his karmic influence, how it has to get fructified. That is why that individual is born at the as the and for which the ascendant comes into picture. The time of birth plus the individual signified by ascendant. Then the seventh house, it connotes the role of one's inner self, commonly known as alter ego, which is a person in store for the individual. In fact, one spouse is generally considered to be complementary half. We always say the better half, in fact. See, the complementary half, without whose regenerative and transformational influence, the individual's life is deemed to be incomplete in material plane. They say, in fact, the basic belief is that a man, till he gets married, he's a half man only. So he becomes a half man, but unless he has to become a father to again become a full man. So the marriage and the next level of promotion to father, they signify the completion of the material level at the basic stage. So because of that requirement in the Hindu tradition, we have treated marriage as the sacred bond, which is supposed to last for many lives and not exactly getting terminated in present life. The concept of Ardhanarishwara, the Shiva and Parvati, the Purusha and Prakriti getting merged together half to half, one half getting merged with the other half. It actually epitomizes this bond of link between the Lagna and the self, and the simultaneous existence of the dual facets of nature, and especially in the form of man and woman. So the Lagna and seventh house becomes a very subtle link. Undoubtedly, we have another explanation here. The making or marring of one's life is by one's spouse. If a unhappy relationship, if a happy relationship and harmonious relationship exists, then all members in the family, they will be happy. If the relationship is unhappy, then the family members suffer. All the members suffer. It is not only the parents, I mean, the couple who suffer. So, all successful men, also women, openly agree to the fact that despite their personal talents, the success was achieved only with the support received from their spouses, without which it would have been impossible. So, in open statements, we see even in the present era of independent women entrepreneurs, there is certainly a mutual interdependence between the couple. Although in the open, each person wishes to play his or her role mutually exclusively in public life, in the very personal front, there surely exists a healthy relationship supported by either an open or tacit approvals and or mutual non-interference in each other's affairs. So this again naturally to be supported by the planetary positions. So if that is not supported, naturally the relationship comes into rough weather and there is certainly problem. But how to identify this? So far as the positive or negative interlink is concerned, how do you identify? The planetary influences in the Lagna and the seventh house would surely indicate the actual pattern of relationship between the couple. If Lagna Lord and seventh Lord are in Parivartana, for example, It indicates a good mutual adjustment between them in all matters, because one goes to the level of other or the place of other, or the he is able to see the viewpoint of the other and then try to coordinate, cooperate, and then compromise. All that coordination, cooperation, compromise, everything mutually they are in a position to adjust between themselves. If Lagna Lord goes to seventh house, the native would be able to adjust to his spouse, because he is going to Lagna is going to seventh house. On the contrary, if the seventh lord comes and occupies Lagna, the native spouse would be accommodative to the native, and the relationship will still run without any major difficulties. But if the malefic planets like Sun, Mars, Rahu, and Ketu, they're associated with these houses and their lords, it may affect, it certainly, rather than may, it surely affects the very purpose of marriage, and it could lead to separation also, depending upon the multiplicity of adverse influences. And as it is, multiple influences of planets and signs indicating duality, especially the signs of Mercury and Jupiter, combined with the separative influences of Mars, Sun, Rahu, Saturn, then the adverse influences of all these malefics, it necessarily induces failures in marriages, and it could be a disadvantageous position in marriage. But if the seventh house and seventh lord are getting associated with trikona lords without any affliction, then there could be some luck in the marriage, and the happy relationship could still ensue. But if Lagna and seventh they are not well posited, even if seventh and seventh house are connected to Trikona, then the individual will not be in a position to relish that success, even though he gets some good things from his spouse. Similarly, if Lagna is getting connected to Trikona, seventh house is not connected to Lagna, then the spouse may not relish it, but the native will. So, some such variations again we will be in a position to understand between Lagna and seventh lords going to Trikonas. So, in effect, or in short, a mutually friendly and favorable relationship between the ascendant and the seventh house, it forges a fusion, combination, or ensures similarity of goals, image goals, and aspirations of both the individuals, and it paves way for a smooth interaction and further evolution in the material world. While the adverse influences, they create conflicts, rough weathers, which keep disturbing the very peace of mind of both the partners, even if they do not lead to separation. So that way, the Lagna and seventh house, if we combine, we get better insights rather than analyzing Lagna independently, analyzing seventh house independently. This is in fact the connection to Lagna and seventh house. I think a few words on second and the second pair, second and eighth house, so that maybe after another 5 minutes I'll switch over to one or two case studies, so that if I talk about second and seventh house, you get some better idea on going with the pairing technique better. So we know second house and seventh house they have multiple karakatwas. Here the second house has a connection to these kutumba, dhanavruddhi, netra, vidya, vutta, vak, vastra, annapana, and so on. We have so many other connections. And similarly, eighth house also has link to basically karya vigna, wounds due to weapons, klesha, something sorrows, parabhava, humiliation, ayush, essentially, mangalyasthana in a female chart, weak or vulnerable point, a hole or aperture called randra, and filthiness, sadness, generally called as malinadi in the Sanskrit, and then apavada or blame, then marana, the way of death actually, and then asuchi also, they get connected to eighth house. As we see from these karakatwas, they are so well intertwined that the significations of one house they correspond almost one to one to the other house. If we are able to analyze these two together simultaneously, we would surely be able to get some most sought after providential secrets of an individual's life, such as possibilities acquiring wealth and riches, causes for unexpected problems like blame, chronic illness, misfortunes, miseries, the time and mode of death, etc. And we know that 8th house is also the house of secrecy. The longevity and mode of death being the ultimate secrets of an individual's life, they are aptly assigned to this. And second house, which is opposite to 8th, is rightly named as Markasthana. And the influence of planets in 8th house either accelerate or retard the speed of death signified by second house, depending on the attendant conditions. This also we have to remember. Conversely, the planets posited in second house, they also can influence the longevity of the native and the nirvana, the type, the nature of exit from this world. How they connect to longevity, I'll just discuss another 2-3 slides. We'll be able to see that. And the 8th house again, being 12th to 9th, it also signifies the luck, loss of luck for an individual, which could again result in unexpected problems in life. And once the luck is spent, it can also indicate termination of life also, which is again death. So that way we have a lot of subtler significations getting connected. And here, at subtler level, second house works as the medium for the creative force represented by the ascendant and signifies the form of expression of the creative self in material world through the medium of speech, family members, dietary habits, longing for health, etc., wealth, etc. Eighth house being opposite to second, it actually works in union with the second house or sometimes against it depending upon the influences in the chart by causing results primarily arising out of second house if second house becomes the focal point, or eighth house if eighth house becomes the focal point. Mutually they get connected depending upon which becomes more important in the horoscope by virtue of influences. In fact, eighth house also signifies one's secret destiny in the physical plane, which is actually shaped by the hidden effects of second house. And for this reason, if second house could be considered to be the manifestation of modified physical self, see the addition or acquisition from physical self, lagna is self and second is acquisition from that. Working modified physical self, working as the mode of operation of lagna, second house basically works as the modified physical self, working from the lagna, then eighth house would connote the subsistence of that new facet of self through mutually complementary influences. So the person tries to do certain things where he may or he may not be in a position to meet with his goals or achieve his goals. And sometimes, because of this, eighth house also signifies self committed mistakes, either knowingly or unknowingly. Lagna to eighth, through second, it signifies self committed mistakes in the horoscope. And this is one important thing which I thought I'll just talk in second and eighth houses. Second house is basically having connection to food and family. This we have already talked about, even Dana for that matter. They have a direct connection to significations of eighth house. The dietary habits of a person, combined with the type and quality of food or potable liquids one regularly consumes, they either enhance or affect his longevity because food is a primary source of supplying energy to the body, although strength and stamina can still be acquired by other means also. Similarly, the conditions of one's finance, they also influence the food habits. A generally affluent lifestyle or good flow of finance supports a rich qualitative food, while the paucity of funds would offer restraints and force the native to adopt economic measures and resort to lower standards of food, which might indirectly affect the health and longevity. Similarly, if a person frequently changes his food habits, it results in frequent problems in health, which adversely affects his longevity, causing reduction in the lifespan. In fact, we have practically seen that people who were used to particular pattern of life and habits in younger years, if they change their lifestyles later because of affordability and affluence, they naturally land into serious sufferings in old age. Usually it is the person who maintains a restraint on food habits and maintains a fairly good habits, a stable dietary habit, etc. He will be in a position to manage his health and longevity better. And the erratic food habits certainly create health problems. That is again having a connection to longevity. The second house has connection to unexpected wealth also. Both the combination, second and eighth, as together, they have connection to unexpected wealth also. Second house rules wealth, and eighth house rules unexpected. I mean, signifies unexpected money or wealth from inherited past. It can be inherited from parents or acquired by different means also, depending on other houses coming into picture, getting connected. And Rahu, we say it is Karaka for Akasmika Dana Yoga. And if there is a mutually favorable link between second and eighth houses, it promotes wealth from usually unusually expected quarters or secret or hidden source. And if there is Rahu in eighth house also, it could give unexpected money by some unfair means like bribe or kickback. And usually benefits in second and eighth house axis, they give unexpected money or wealth bequeathed by parents. And the another important thing I thought I'll just discuss is this walk and longevity. In olden days, the honesty of a person was weighed with the credibility of his speech. This we very much know. Our scriptures have very clearly advocated that one should be kaya, vacha, manasha, shuddhi. But changing times, of course, it has diluted it. But in olden days, walk signified by second house was given a lot of importance in judging a person's ethical standards. We call it nanayam in Tamil. So they say a person's credibility. So it all depends on his speech. What is the word he has given? That is given a lot of importance. So it was deemed to be an irreparable disgrace if one's credibility of speech was lost, or if one was not able to maintain one's own oral commitments. There were instances in the past, people resorting to even suicide, which is again connecting to eighth house, due to such disgrace of not able to maintain their work. So these things again go to prove that we will be in a position to connect the second and eighth houses very clearly in prediction to get extra leads in understanding the subtlety of the horoscope. The last important point I think I would like to talk about two and second and eighth house is that they are connected to certain sensitive doshas like Kujadosha, Sarpadosha. Every dosha, Kujadosha, Sarpadosha you name, 2, 4, 7, 8, they come into picture. So this is 2 and 8, both the houses are connected to these doshas, Kujadosha, Sarpadosha, etc. And if Mars or Rahu or Ketu or Malefics for that matter, if they are posited in these houses, they always cause significantly inauspicious results and the bhava suffers. In one of the bhavas it is there, naturally the other area also gets affected because of the seventh house influence. That is the important thing we have to remember. If both second and eighth houses are occupied by malefics, the dosha gets automatically intensified, and it could be again very serious trouble. Could be loss of child, could be loss of partner, could be again loss of life itself, termination of the longevity or relationship that people have. So this way, I've just talked on Lagna and seventh house, second and eighth house. I'm nearing closure of my time. It is, I think I have already neared the closure of my time, perhaps. But 1 hour was given to me. The first initial minutes, if I leave, initial 5 to 10 minutes, maybe I can take another 5 minutes. Is it okay, Mr. Balaji?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir. No problem.
So the remaining, I will just continue for another 5 minutes and close it in 5 minutes. So the remaining pairs of houses we have to examine on similar lines. So I would not be going into that. So one or two example charts I try to talk so that we are able to appreciate the concept better in another 5 minutes. This is the horoscope of a native born on 30th October 1970 at Vellore at 6:30 a.m. You can see this horoscope. Ascendant is having four planets: Mercury, Jupiter, Sun, and Moon. And seventh house is having Saturn. And Lagna is flanked by two planets, the Lagna Lord on one side and the seventh Lord on another side. Rahu and Ketu on fifth and 11th axis. So as we see, the 1 bar 7 axis, the Lagna and 7th axis, it is very strongly influenced by planets, and technically the 1 bar 7 axis is everything for this lady. Anything and everything, whether you say something positive, whether you say something negative, everything gets connected to 1 bar 7. The 7th house, again, we can see is having a retrograde Saturn, even though in debilitation sign. As Yoga Karaka, in debilitation sign, he gives the exaltation results. That is what we say. Uttar Kalamrita says that. So, from 4th and 5th Lord getting debilitated in 7th house in retrogression is capable of giving the results of an exalted Saturn. So, marriage, exalted Saturn's influence. Lagna has 4 planets: Mercury, Jupiter, Sun, Moon. And again, these two, 7th Lord is in 12th house, aspecting 7th house is another thing. Lagna Lord is in 2nd house in connection with Lagna. So they are mutually flanking the Lagna. That means they also exert influence on Lagna. So the native was basically married in around 19 years itself, and now you can see it is around 51 plus. The entire life has been centering around the family, husband, children. There are no other areas active in this horoscope. The opposite houses, Lagna and 7th house, it is directly anything and everything related to the spouse and her relationship with spouse, and the results acquired through that relationship, which is something like children. 5th house coming into picture. This is a very simple thing. The multiple complicities we can again go with this. The relationship can be having a lot of mixed influences because benefics are there, malefics are there. Malefics also to some extent they become yoga karakas. Saturn as yoga karaka. Then the 11th lord, who is Badaka for the Lagna, is already there in Lagna, and 10th Lord Moon is already there in Lagna. So they try to give some extra potential for the individual in managing the household affairs, because of which she gets the support of husband also on one side, and her life permanently runs around her house, husband, family, children. This all, not beyond that. In a large measure, it is connected to 1 bar 7 axis only because of the concentration of planets. Otherwise, even if we do not have concentration, only one planet is there, then the control comes into picture. Assuming that these 4 planets are not there, they are elsewhere. The Saturn alone in 7th house in this state, 4th and 5th Lord retrograde in 7th under in debilitation sign, the spouse will supersede the influence of the lady, and she will be under the direct control of the lady at that time. So if we try to understand Lagna, Lagna will be independent. Lagna Lord in 2nd house, we may not be able to see anything very clearly about Lagna. But if Saturn, if you combine 1 bar 7, if you link with Saturn from 7th house, we can see that she will be under the control of her husband. Even if these planets are present, the influence of retrograde Saturn in this particular horoscope also is more strong because of its retrogression in debilitation sign, and as an yoga karaka, the husband still tries to supersede or go with the spouse in spite of the relationship issues, because the Saturn, planet Sun, Moon, all these are inimical to Saturn. Despite these discard, they will still continue to go with some amount of comfort because Saturn happens to be yoga karaka for this lagna. So if you connect this 7th to lagna, then only we get some better insights. That is the concept here. I have another female chart here. You can see the ascendant is 28 degrees 12 minutes. I think I don't want to go into this. Ascendant is Dhanush, where Saturn is present, and in the Lagna Lord, then Guru, he is in 7th house. So this means the native will adjust with the husband. This is what I have been telling very clearly. The native will adjust with the husband. And again, we have additional influences. So the 9th Lord going to 7th house. 8th Lord going to 7th house. Again, eighth lord certainly induces difference of opinion, problems. Again, Saturn and Moon, they get coming in line in 1/7 axis. Naturally, the girl becomes, the lady becomes fastidious or somewhat hard to please. But still, the influence of Moon may be creating relationship issues, and Sun and Jupiter together, they may be giving some good influences because ninth lord is coming to seventh house, improvements after marriage, and the lady will tend to adjust to the environment of the spouse because Lagna lord goes to seventh house. So the other conditions I need not say. Seventh lord is again in sixth house, which is again not that so favorable from the spouse point of view. But despite those difficulties, the lady will adjust. That is the concept. And again, Mars, fifth lord in fourth house, aspecting the same seventh house. This also adds to the mixed influences. One thing we have to note is that this aspect of Mars is a benefic aspect. So for children, through children, even that positive results will get intensified. So that way, when we try to analyze, I have just talked of only 1/7 in this horoscope also. So if we try to look into these houses, rather than analyzing seventh house independently or Lagna independently, the link between Lagna and seventh house, if we are in a position to identify, despite the discard, there is the adjustability because we need to adjust with the spouse because of Jupiter going to seventh house. No doubt she suffers because of that, because seventh house is a Badakasthana to Dhanu Lagna. Okay, I think let me stop here because although there are example horoscopes, I would not be in a position to go. I thank you very much for all your patient hearing. I thank all the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thanks a lot. This book is already available in the market, Pairing of Opposite Houses. For other detailed information on the remaining pairs, you can refer to the book. Thank you once again, and thanks a lot.